Yeah, the apocalypse.
All right. Hello, everybody. How are you doing out there? Welcome to two menopausal women in the apocalyptic energies. Um, I know it's exciting because we love to talk about energy and what the unseen realms and how we can use it in our lives in this time and space. So Caitlin, tell us about yourself.
Hi, Jemaa. I'm an
You.
intuitive healer and a astrologer and all around realm guide. I
Mhm.
use tools of biogeometry to help raise the vibration on the body, the home, and the environment. And I'm here today to share about energy.
I
I'm
love.
obsessed.
Yes. No, I am too.
Yes.
So obsessed with healing with the energy and figuring out like that, that we're all in our own timeline and different frequencies that we can work with too. And noticing just my experience the other day, noticing like on my walk, good energy and then walking into bad energy. And that's like it was so clear
Energy grid.
that it was an
Yeah.
energy grid. It was just all of us, like I knew because like it's and this is these are it's so important to be in tune with your intuition and the energies around us and work with them and um kind of know if you can deal with it or not too. So I had to like quickly go, oh, can I clear this? And I was like, just walk through it and check it out. So I walked through it and it was so dark, just like really
Mm.
low energy. And I did my best to clear it, but it was really bad. And and so once I got out of there, I sealed it up and then I'm not going to go back in that area anymore. But yeah, it was just interesting to be able to read what's around you. And yeah, and we're obsessed. And my name's Jemaa, by the way. I always forget to
And
introduce myself.
tell them what you do.
Yes, and so I'm an Akashic Records librarian. I can tap into these energies and the quantum space, the Akashic Records, whatever you want to call it, the energy field that we talk about, and receive information. And for some reason, I was born able to do that, and that's why I'm so obsessed with it. And I'm always fine tuning. I don't have it perfected, just like, uh, the feelings I just went through the other day. It's like, whoa. So it's always, that's why I love our conversation. Um,
Well,
our,
it's also a sign of a really good psychic is one that is not in the all-knowing everything.
right,
One that is actually not sure is actually a really good psychic because the ego doesn't dominate the information.
right.
So,
And I had to
it's
work
note
hard
to self,
on that.
note to everybody.
Thank you. Yeah. Because I actually worked hard on that is because my Aquarian is like, oh, I know everything. My guy had told me this, but
Yeah, I
now
got
I'm
it
actually
long ago.
in this space of like, I don't know. I'm in the just open to any kind of information that comes in and then doing the best I can to channel that information in to this time and space. So, Caitlin, what should we start off with?
Well, I think you should define apocalypse again, just
Okay,
so everyone understands that we're not like in this doom
right.
scenario, like
Okay.
everything is
Okay.
like let's define apocalypse.
Right. So, yeah, and it's interesting because I've tried to look it up and it actually because we are now what we're working with, I've and this is we've taught we can get into that more detailed later, but we're working with like a good AI and a bad AI in this simulation or in this um organic, non-organic reality we're in. And so for whatever reason, when we look stuff up on our phone now, AI gives us a definition or um we just can't trust actually what we're looking up anymore. And so
Yeah.
a while ago when I looked up apocalypse, and I believe it's in some books as well. That's why I was like, I know I love the word apocalypse. It means new beginnings, a restart, a kind of like like my Scorpio moon. It's like a death rebirth, but it's being in an apocalypse is this huge transformation, like the phoenix, rising. So it's like these really beautiful but intense energies that we're working with, and then we're going to push through them into what we want to create through these intense energies.
Yeah, so it's like endings are beginnings. So we have to remember that
Right.
because and it's really funny because I think I looked it up a long time ago and it was like change and it had this, it wasn't like doom and gloom, but now I just looked it up and it's like, no, biblical end of the world.
Yeah.
Like it just
No, that's
totally
why I was
changed.
commenting
Like,
when I looked it up, and
yeah.
thank you for looking it up now, because then I recently looked it up again, and then now it says doom and gloom. That's why I'm like, we
Oh my
can't trust
God.
anything that is coming up on our phones anymore or on in Google, because it's getting programmed of what they want us to, and they is like the dark ones, we are in a good and evil.
The ones who think they're in control. I like to say that because
Yeah,
they are not in control
right.
necessarily. They just appear that way.
They just, yes. Well, they've known how
Illusion
to
of control.
trick us for a very long time. So
Yeah.
that's how I see it. And we're breaking out of that trickery. And we have to be on super awareness. That's why it's so important to be in tune with your intuition and know.
Develop that intuition. Yeah. If you haven't been developing it, you have to just start trusting the
Mhm.
inner voice and
Right.
it will grow stronger.
Yeah.
And then you'll like have a total, and then you call on some allies also, ancestors that are there for your greatest destiny and purpose. The
Yeah.
allies, the ones that have done the work, they're there. They're all in the field.
They are.
So, really getting conscious with this inner, and I just want to say something about that. The internet, it was like looking like it would be like a mass shutdown and then they would clear information from the internet. But what seems to be happening is it's a slow kind of scrubbing of information
Yes.
and new information comes in and replaces it. So a lot of websites that were really reliable for certain information are gone now.
Oh,
um,
right.
Archive sites are going away. So, not to fear anything, but that is something that's been in the isometrics, according to, the past, how
Mm.
the history repeats itself. That is the cycle that we're in a time of kind of this scrubbing of
Yeah.
information that would be this
That can
restriction.
help us, or that benefits us with good information. So,
That's what's true. What's true, what really happened, that is changing. So
yeah.
that has happened in the early 1900s. It happened also. There was a big, um, reset scrubbing of information. And then the Carnegie libraries came in, the Rockefeller medicine came in, all these things came in, and they had the World's Fairs and all that stuff. So all that stuff came in to take over. And like, no, this is the information you want,
And
you know?
that's a reset, right?
Yes,
So we're
that is reset. So we
reset.
live in a reset reality.
Yeah.
So we really have to like understand, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
controllers want us to always be in this flight or fight, oh my God, the world's ending and, climate and, all these things. They want us to constantly be in that fear of a doom because it triggers, I really think it triggers a memory,
Right.
an ancestral memory of
Yeah.
an actual reset, which
Right.
is something that just happens in this realm,
That's
and it's some people like Jason of Archaics have noted that it's this 138 years. Every 138 years, there is some kind of cataclysmic event that creates migration, mass migrations, or a sinking of places and a rising of others. And so it's like a total shift in the realm.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of, but it gets covered up. And then, that 138 years, not many live that long to say, oh yeah, I remember this is what happened. But luckily there's books where things have been written,
Yeah.
that document different phenomena happening. And
Because
so that's how he's
we used to live longer. That's how I've always felt. And then, like it never made sense to me that that we die so early. And
yeah,
so that's part of the reset also, because everything is energy. So part of these resets is the programming. And then once we're all programmed, there's a collective, and then that's what becomes the reality. So, and that's what we are. That's probably that's what this great awakening is a reset, right? So because we're breaking free from this loop, this negative loop that we've been programmed and reset into, and we're expanding out of that. And so we're having to reprogram and reset into a more positive place, right? That's the cyclical of what you're talking about. It's so interesting.
yeah,
And I love, yeah, Jason KX. You introduced me to him. I hadn't listened to him except for in the last 6 months. And yeah, it's fascinating information. That makes sense to me because it's energy. And then and like the scrubbing. So that's like yeah, the scrubbing of information, that's cyclical as well, because that's what they did way back when they got rid of all the informational books, right? The burning of books. And so now it's just on the internet. And I heard him say that. And I was like, oh yeah, crazy. But they've been doing
yeah.
the scrubbing of
Everything is cycles.
everything
Everything in history.
cycles. Yeah,
There's nothing new under the sun,
right.
literally. So it just like, but we forget.
Yeah.
We are a species with amnesia, we really are.
Especially when you get into
So,
menopause. Jesus
oh
Christ.
my God, it's like everyday amnesia.
It's really ridiculous. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I know.
So
Yeah.
that's why
It's
that's why we joke. We're
really,
like navigating the apocalypse. It's like a reset, like every day for us.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
really. It's like, where am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, there is this, um, it's just like a taking advantage of. There's always this class of people, they call them the elites or whatever, these bloodlines that want to take advantage of the natural thing that happens here.
Mhm.
So there is like, we've been talking about resets, the World Economic, blah, 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 all these, three-letter names talk about they want to have this, they want to take advantage of what's naturally happening and act like they're doing it.
Right.
So there's like always this faction that wants to come in and kind
Control.
of create an artificial kind
Mm.
of reset, and have us like, oh no, this is the reset. 2020 is the reset. Oh, this is the reset.
Yeah.
So you have to get really clear with what is, the earth as a living being.
Mm-hmm.
We live in the earth. What is the signs that are happening in the actual earth, in the reality, and then the false reality? There's all these different realities we
Because it's
gotta
all
navigate.
it's vibrational
Yeah, it's all,
and we're
yeah.
moving through them. And the more that we're aware of how that's working, that's why we're always like, oh, there's two hummingbirds. They're like, guys, and the wasps on the feeder. Um, it's these vibrational spaces, and that's why we always say, being out in nature and like the hummingbirds, and And animals, they are at the frequency, that organic frequency of just that love, and that's what's real in whatever reality and timeline we're moving through. It's always staying in the heart space, in that frequency. And it's challenging because
Yeah.
we get pulled into other people's timelines that might be more negative, or and then we deal with the entities, which I know we've talked about in other, because there's entities in these different vibrational spaces as well. Like the walk that I went on, that was like, it was too heavy for me. A lot of times I can clear stuff, and and I have a voice that comes in and says, oh, you probably shouldn't walk. And this is like near my house too, so that's why I like stay kind of in my own zone. But I'm like, I'm venturing out, but I've always gotten this weird feeling. But anyways, I
Right.
know that there's these pockets, yeah, and that's where there's probably we've gotten into ley lines before as well. And so there's
Yeah.
blockages in those ley lines, and that's where these lower vibrational entities will congregate
Yeah.
and stew, and then it'll
Yeah.
attract.
Because of the law of resonance. So like attracts like.
Right.
So when you go into these zones that you actually feel the
Hmm.
energy lines, there'll be more accidents, um, and tragedies like murder and stuff like that, and all kinds of.
No, that's the vibe. I didn't want to say it on the video, but
Yeah,
it's like I got
you
like
could
there
say
were
it like
humans
real.
there
So
that
it's
were
part of.
murderers. Like, but that's, I'm not now like, speculating, but that's what
Yeah,
it felt like. It was so dark. Like, yeah. So
yeah,
I sealed it up and like kind of sealed it like in its own little in its own vibrational space to stay contained. Um, so so far so good.
well, and sometimes you can make offerings too,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes
Good
these things
idea.
are wounded. They're wounded, so they're, like hostile,
Right.
and you can like really like change the energy if you want to. I
Yeah.
mean, if you want to, like, oh, just offer a little, would you like some tobacco, or would you like
Yeah.
some smoke, or like, different things that are appropriate. It
Yeah.
can help to elevate space as well. But sometimes things are just so dark, you're just like, oh, let me just
That's what I
get
was,
out of here.
because of course I'm
Yeah.
always okay, transmute light, and but this one little section, I was like, oh no, okay, I just won't walk back there. Because a lot of times I can there are places where I'll hit dark, on walks that I go on, out and about, and I'll hit little pockets of like, ooh, and then transmute it, and and all of that. But just sometimes
Yeah.
it's not, you know, um,
Well,
it, yeah,
and also the more light you become,
yeah,
the more you are in tune with your light body, and, the more the dark is also attracted to you. So you also like, and it's all about free will. So there's nothing like
that's
can
right.
take you over without your free will,
That's exactly
your consent. So there's all these ways we consent. We don't know we're consenting. So
right.
we have to really be, no,
That's right.
only love and light can be here. Only love and light can be here with me is like very clear.
Yes.
And I'll like clap my hands or do something like, I'll get fierce sometimes
Yeah.
because
Totally.
you need
Like,
to show
say you felt
a
something the other
boundary.
night, like last week, right?
Mhm.
And that's why it's so important to be in tune with your space and your intuition and your
Boundaries.
energy field, because things can come in without you knowing. That they'll find a little doorway in your energy field if it's not solid, and that's good. Only light and love is allowed in my energy. Yeah. And that's the
Yeah.
warrior. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that comes out, the
Yeah.
fierce.
Because sometimes, and we have allies too. I mean, I have several allies I work with on the land that help me when I'm in the forest and things like that, that I call on,
Oh, good.
to protect the space.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little tricks. Um, but there's a lot of tools available, I feel like. And part of it is just really being aware of the energy. Is like, oh, okay, this is a
Yeah.
really dark zone over here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's
yeah, it's
starts with, and that's what part of this awakening or this expansion in this construct is. I feel the more and more people are becoming in tune with their intuition, and it's important.
mhm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting even about like because that Chief Ironbush, he gets into the etymology of words. The etymology is like fascinating, and he
Yeah.
talks about a wake. A
Oh,
wake is a death,
oh,
right? You witness a
yeah.
death.
Wow. Yeah, I love that.
So because he was talking about it, he
That's
used
cool.
a different word,
That's
and I
cool.
was like, yeah, you should because this the wake and woke have been all like it's been taken over, right, to mean
Yeah.
a certain thing now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
but I
that's
understand what you mean. I
yeah.
understand what you mean when you say that, but we have to remember now because also the sun is changing and the ether is changing, the magnetosphere is changing because of the sun changing, and so
Yeah.
there are these energies happening that are making the ether more powerful. I feel like more intensified. Like
Uh-huh.
I think about somebody, boom, they're right there, or they're
Okay.
calling, or
That's
right?
totally like yesterday more than ever. So some kind of portal had opened for an expansion because I literally it just kept happening. Like I would say something and then there it would be like at the exact same time on like say I was listening to something or I'm doing these oracle cards and then I'll think something and then there's the word right on the card at the
Right.
same time. It's like the synchronistic, and it was so obvious yesterday that I was like I was like cool. this
Yeah.
I'm in yeah, I'm in the synchronicity or
Yeah.
the
It's kind of a
with
sign of the flow state, being in the
that's
flow
exact-
state, right?
yeah,
Which is what we want. We don't want to be fighting the
that's right.
current. We
Yeah,
use all this mariner language. So we really don't want to be fighting the energies. We want to be working with the energies and in the flow.
yeah,
And those synchronicities are very profound once you're in tune with them. But I really feel like this is a part of the words and what words mean and what we say and what we think. These words are spells
yeah,
more and more
yeah,
as we get more into this intensified landscape. I feel like the energies around where I live are very it's there's a because they've ramped up the political divisiveness that it's like there is this real tension in the air here.
yeah.
And it's like I'm on the local, it's kind of like a list serve where they people, promote things that they're selling or this and that.
Mhm.
And yeah, there's all these battles going on. People, well, you said that,
Oh,
this
yeah,
is the best way. It's just like this constant, I know what's best. I know what's really happening. And hello, y'all. You cast in your ballot at the polls. This is interesting. Chief Ironbush talks about this too. Casting your ballot. So you're casting,
yeah,
the cast,
yeah, yeah.
fishing, or cast, spell cast,
Right.
ballot at the poll. Poll is like a pole or a hole. So there's like it's just a way that they test how people are feeling,
Oh,
about people or politics or whatever. It's not actually something that counts.
right.
Your vote doesn't actually count because it's all electoral college, right?
Well, I
So
knew
we've been
back
through that so many times, right? Where it's just like,
none
oh
of it
no,
was counted back when I was 18. I was like, why
yeah,
are people, but my mom was like, go vote.
every
You're 18. I'm like,
time,
why? It doesn't matter. So I knew something was off.
every
I
time.
didn't even follow
Yeah,
any of that. And I still won't participate in that whole realm. I just won't.
yeah.
Because it's
Well,
another timeline. It's another construct. Yeah.
yeah. And it's, we have this really very sick relationship with politics. It's like we keep
Crazy.
going, oh no, we're the good people and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And it's like, does anything ever change no matter who is in the thing, seriously. And they're
Yeah.
all actors and like, I mean, it couldn't be more obvious, choose
It's
an
so
actor because it's a
strange
freaking
nowadays.
role,
Yeah.
and it's like the only one that went off the script was Kennedy and he was shot. So that's how I feel about that. It's just like it's elites and they've got their little people
Yeah.
and, you know,
Well, and that's how I see it too. That's why it's in its own reality, and we've been tricked
that's
to
in its own,
participate in that reality through the division,
yeah,
through the infighting with each other,
yeah,
on good, bad,
create more division.
Republican,
Yeah.
Democrat, what is it? The religion,
Duality,
this,
red
yeah,
shift, blue shift. Literally, it
yeah,
is the
yeah,
dualistic nature of electricity.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that creates this, everything's red, blue,
yeah,
blood and veins.
yeah,
Everything is like this
yeah,
dualistic nature. And
yeah.
even the way we see things is dualistic
But
because
we
we're
don't
right
have
brain, left brain.
to. This is part of
We don't
the
have to.
We don't have to. This is part of the shift. This is part of the reset. This is but for what we want. And that's what we
Yeah.
were talking about too, is the just knowing, we are the creators, co-creators,
Yeah.
of our own reality. And it takes a lot because we are dealing with a collective that we've all, um, when we are working together collectively and we all believe in something, and it could be something on a subconscious level that we're not even aware of. That's why it's so important to do that inner work, deep inner work, so we can, unprogram and deprogram to step into our creator self. Yeah, it's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and this is that part of that bad relationship. It's like, I
Mm.
mean, think about it. If your relationship with politics was a boyfriend, it's like, oh no, he's gonna do the thing because he said he would, and then, you know, it doesn't. And it's like, no, but if I don't do it, then the other guy, someone else will go out with him. Or just think about the way
Yeah,
that they talk about, if you don't vote for a democracy, Democrat, then you're gonna get a Republican. Well, guess what? In the isometrics projection, according to history, we're going back into a conservative, like Christian type situation. And that is just the cycle.
it's just the
And
I
if
saw
we think we
that a
can
little bit.
change that, well, you know what? It's like you really have to get clear because people romanticize the whole 60s thing and everything. All of your movements have been infiltrated by
Totally,
PSYOP, counter PSYOP.
absolutely.
Every movement was infiltrated and controlled. So if
Yeah,
you think you got this and you got that,
and
you didn't.
started, not just
Illusion.
infiltrated, they started these movements that
Yeah, some cases they totally started it. And this like,
yeah.
yeah, so just quit romanticizing the past and what you thought you accomplished because it really was a
Well, my
controlled
mom,
operation.
she remind because I don't know much, but it's just so, just with all the wars, they've all been started and they've been, just part of the dark, and just the destruction that it does. But she has told me about the Vietnam War, and just the experiments that these evil people, that's what I'm just going to call them, or evil, whatever they are, to experiment with Ancient Orange on these poor kids that got drafted, but
No, the Agent Orange is gnarly.
gnarly. And men are dying now today at, in their older age from that, what happened. But the program, the dark agenda was so horrible that these boys got drafted and just were traumatized. And then when they came back, the agenda, the dark program had already programmed everybody to hate those boys that didn't have a
I
choice
know.
to go over
I
there
know.
and then come
I
back
know.
and then just be hated. And then they're homeless and not able to because they just were ostracized.
Sick.
My mom just
Yeah,
told me
totally.
the other day, I'm like, are you serious? Like, that's just crazy to me. Like,
Oh,
it's
girl, and then they just started using Agent Orange on our food
on our food.
in
Yeah.
neighborhoods. I mean,
On
literally
grass. On,
the
yeah,
polio epidemic was
yeah.
they were spraying gnarly chemicals to kill flies in
DDT.
neighborhoods. Guess
Yeah,
what? Kids were getting paralyzed. Oh, and that's your polio.
that's
There's
right.
a whole other story to all of these things that we've been told.
Yeah,
You know, a lot of it is these gnarly companies that are, you know, just
yeah,
like, oh, let's see what happens if we use this on them. It's like there's no. I mean, in Hawaii, they used to spray right outside. Kids would run after the trucks,
yeah. Same in
spray
Yeah,
DDT,
I've heard people that live here in
right?
California
And
go,
then,
oh
oh,
yeah,
guess what? Dying of cancer later. Oh, really?
yeah.
That's like, so it's like we trust these organizations that are fucking us constantly. Excuse my language, but really, I mean,
No,
like
totally.
these, yeah. So
That's
it's
where
like we
we got
really have
tricked
to,
into that reality to they had an agenda for us, for just us regular, like, infinite soul coming in with our amnesia. And then there was
yeah,
already this construct or, you know, for their benefit to live a certain lifestyle. But we're on to them now, I think a lot of us, and that's what this shift is called, many different names, the Great Awakening, the Ascension, 5D, but it's just it's that cycle you were talking about where we figure something out and then we break free from it for a little bit. Yeah. And then
yeah,
cycle, cycle back in. That's why I do like Jason on Archaics, because it's just fascinating perspective of what these, um, what these
yeah. It's like the other side
yeah,
of history,
have been. Yeah,
you know, and part of what I've been doing is just really focusing on what we're living in,
that's right.
reality wise,
Yeah.
energetically, because
Hmm.
we don't have any just like uh, education around even basic physics,
Right.
vibration.
Yeah,
Back in pre 1900s, homeopathy was the major medicine.
that's right.
You know, there's all these old books on homeopathy because there was just that was the way they understood that, they understood vibration.
Yeah.
And
And it's
I talk
homeopathy.
about my great grandmother's book, not book, but she wrote her story out, and there was a whole understanding of sickness was energy because they
Yes.
would wear this like packets of this asafoetida, this really kind of strong smelling. It's actually a tree resin, but it smells kind of like garlicky, like
Mhm.
celery. It's really strong smell.
Yeah.
And they would wear it around their necks in winter to protect them from sickness.
I
So it was really interesting that,
Well, that's
you
interesting
know,
because that's my guides
that
or
was in the 18,
yeah, the 1800. Okay. Oh, so it must have been my
late
ancestors or guides, but they really a while back um, they were saying like you don't catch things, and now I've since found out that's the germ theory. There's not a germ theory, but that's so explains what that information was that came through that we're resonating at frequencies,
yeah,
and there's a
yeah,
toxic, there's a disease, there's a virus or a cold, like anything, those are all, it's resonate, we're resonating. And then that
yeah,
goes into the collective, because we have a collective. So because I'm finding that people will get sick that aren't even near each other, so I'm like, well, that proves the frequency, and resonating at that. And then you have the collective that believes that there's viruses out there and will get sick. So there's a whole thing that we have to really reprogram ourselves and deprogram and detach from that and then create the new program of resonating with the health frequency. It's huge. It's
Yeah,
big.
and well, whether viruses exist or don't exist, it all can be looked at as energies, right? So
Right.
it's like
Yeah,
it's just energy,
it's just
frequency.
energy. That's right.
So I don't even want to get into a debate about existing or not existing.
Yeah.
Something happens,
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
like, whoa, and I may not even be feeling, well, actually, usually I'm feeling kind of tired when sickness
Yeah.
does
Or a
come around.
stress comes in or an
But
old
yeah,
pattern. That's when
or anger,
or
get
anger
mad.
is when I get sick because I'm
Mhm.
aligning with a lower frequency that carries those
Yeah,
ailments, and so yeah, and
yeah,
aligning, yeah, being angry or stressed or yeah,
yeah,
um all of
yeah.
that.
So it's
That's why it's so
really,
important. And through what you were saying, the plants, those are at a high frequency. We want to resonate with the plants, the plant kingdom.
yeah. So that my great grandmother was using tree resin, you know, around her neck. And then if they got sick, they used goose grease with turpentine and rubbed it all over themselves.
Oh my gosh.
Pull out sickness. I
Oh,
know, which
wow.
is pine.
That's pine.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah. So it's like really interesting. It's really
yeah.
interesting to read her story because also she was a woman of the 1890s. That's when she was born.
Oh,
And this is also time during, the big fires of the early 1900s
oh,
happened.
yeah, yeah,
She wasn't touched by any of it. She was like, so you always think it's, oh, it was so hard and terrible. And it's like,
yeah.
not for her. She had a great life through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So she's like the one woman I know on that side of the family that actually, was like living her best
Oh,
life.
that's amazing.
So
So that means
I
she
know it is.
intuitively already knew to be at a certain frequency and mindset, because that's all it's
Yeah,
our belief system, our mindset, where, that can really create our what we're going
yeah,
through.
totally. Yeah.
And she
So
probably
it's
refused to participate in what everybody else was going through. Yeah, it's really cool.
well, and that maybe there's pockets of people who weren't going through any of it. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
So that is also inspiring because
Yeah,
in this story we're told we all went through this and we all went through that. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, actually, and this is according to also isometric research, some people were affected, some people were not affected.
yeah,
So it's like it's not everyone that gets affected by these things, but if it becomes a story of a historical timeline,
yeah.
there's this assumption that everybody is affected. So it's interesting. So there's all these different, it's like one reality but like a million ways to perceive it.
That,
So
yeah,
this is where we get into, like the positive mindset because it's
that's right.
not like, oh, love and light and nothing else, but it is like a frequency in itself that if you just instead of going to the dark, the unknown, often we go to the dark. It's just a natural thing,
Yeah,
right? We're just like, oh no, we don't know what's going to happen. So, oh, it could be terrible because in the past it was terrible. So we have to really recognize, no, we can actually create whatever we want in that unknown space,
that's right.
right? So it's
Well,
like,
and
how do
that's
we,
yeah. Well, because because we can see other people's realities and experiences, um and then it can feel like ours, or we can actually experience, what someone else is experiencing on like the collective level. But
yeah,
this is the key, I feel, is to be it like your grandma, like, or your great grandma, like be that's why it takes the doing the energy work, the knowing that we are creating our reality. So even if we see destruction, even right in front of our face, knowing that we don't have to experience that because it is
Well, yeah.
thoughts,
And
it is belief.
I think we're compassionate beings, so we feel like, oh,
Right.
something happens to somebody we know,
Could it,
oh man, that
yeah,
could happen to me.
yeah,
Or you almost like, depending on your astrology, you may be very like sensitive
yeah,
to what other people are going through and don't have your
absolutely.
shields and your
Yeah,
protection and your vibration high. So
yeah,
you'll just come into resonance with that. You
right.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
And even in that time, I just had a friend, kind of a distant friend, get into a bad car accident. She's been in ICU. And it's like I'm holding her a vision of her exercising, moving, doing
yeah,
her work. I'm not holding this vision of her in a hospital, like in ICU, because it's like that's not going to help her
right.
to do that. But then everyone's like, oh my God, if that happened to her, it didn't even seem like she was going to get touched by anything like that. And it did. So
Yeah,
then it becomes the life struggle, of that person, to overcome,
that's right.
and we all have these different roles we're playing here.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
it's just really, it just makes you go, oh my God, I don't want to never want to drive on the freeway again, or never would have, because it could happen to me, but it's like, no, we have to stay out of fear and stay out of these places,
yeah.
of resilience. But also being compassionate and being supportive. It's not that we're like, you guys are fucked and I'm just gonna like
Do
do
my
my
best.
thing over here, be super
No, no,
positive and like, but it's like recognizing that we are creating in every moment
right.
with our thoughts and our beliefs and our movements, our actions. So we have to really like hold the highest vision
Yeah,
for everyone around us, you
totally.
know?
Yeah.
So it's, yeah,
Because that's like seeding the fields, like we've talked about. So when we,
yeah,
you um,
yeah, exceeding the energy field.
feed the energy field and the collective, and that's like with those pockets of um that's why it's so important to be in tune with our intuition and our energy fields and the energy around you, um because I know that there's been like destruction in certain places as well. So, and that is like horrible, even in my area right before I moved here, there was horrible fires, you know and
Right? Those are big
you
fires.
have the Maui, that was, horrible. And then now, just now, the storms, that are now, we all know, you know, pretty sure most.
Well, and that's, also in this realm, in history, we don't, it's not mainstream history, but there is, those fires have been happening for a long time and it's reset,
Yeah,
it's land grabs and it's the tactics of
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
is out there. But it is the same thing visually because we have photos. We have photos of these old fires,
totally. And flood.
and
Fires
burning
and flood.
brick, burning like brick is what you make fireplaces out of. Like
Yeah,
it's just like
yeah,
the
melting.
destruction,
Yeah.
yeah, the melted things, and then a tree will be right next to it. It's just like crazy.
And the floods.
So,
So fires and floods. And,
yeah,
um, and that's, yeah, it has been going on for a long time. And so that's where I go way out there. So that's because that's kind of, so that's what we're talking about, is we all have to get on,
sorry, I
because
go way out,
I go way out there. So I'm like, that's why we
it's
all,
way out there.
I know the power of our consciousness. So when things like that happen, and it's just beautiful to see the community that comes together, and there's a lot of people that are aware of what's going on, like the storms that just happened in like North Carolina, and Florida, and so many know that they were it's manipulated weather. And so there's this rise in consciousness around that destruction to move out of that false matrix. So that's what
Well, I
we're,
mean, that's
right?
the other side of what
Yeah,
the every disaster that's happened is that it wakes people up, so
right.
to speak.
Yeah.
You know, that like there are some that will whatever do their reality the same no
Yeah.
matter what. But there's others that are like, oh no, that was like now that I've experienced that, I understand what people are saying. So every time that happens, more and more
Yeah.
are, like uh, arising.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's, yeah, totally.
So
To what we're really
yeah,
dealing with the energies that we've just been talking about. So, yeah.
yeah,
And of course, and then that's where our compassion comes in and like, and I just, because I don't want to see anybody go through that. Um,
yeah,
or experience it myself, you know. And so
yeah,
it's,
exactly.
I can't even imagine. So, and I don't feel like I'm impervious to it. I just do my best to ground in, be aware of those energies and just keep it, you know, clear and work.
Yeah,
I know we can work consciously with these storms as well and fires and
yeah. I mean, that
conscious
is the thing.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all this like, especially Native American stories where it's like, they showed up and created rain. The rain, they knew the chance for rain, they knew, how to. So there is a way that we all can manipulate the field. Unfortunately, we
Yeah.
are like weather, we're being weather terrorized all the time. The storms are like, no, this intense storm. And then I remember when I was traveling inland and there was this intense storm at the end of the spring. And it was like I was getting all these warnings. I wasn't even near on my GPS. I wasn't even near any of it. And it
Yeah.
was just like, why are we blowing this up? And they're calling it things weather events, so a wind event, or like there's
Yeah.
like rewording. And so it's like it puts it out there and then we all take it and go, oh, it's going to rain, it's going to rain, it's going to storm, it's going to storm. And oh yeah, the storm, and how we are affecting that. So
Creating that
it's just like
practically, assisting.
brilliant, really, when they think about it. It's
Totally
like they don't
brilliant.
really have to do anything, It's just like they can just think, we could just think they're doing something, and then we're thinking about it, and then it spreads like crazy because we're all pulling in information from the ether, which
Right.
is why, I really want to talk about, and I've created a workshop to talk about energy.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's
because
go into that. Yeah, let's go into your workshop and how you got started with your whole journey, you know. Uh,
well, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, my whole thing is I've been on a quest through, we all go through these shamanic journeys where we experience this tragic relationship or, mine was a tragic relationship. And then it was like, oh, well, what is going on? And why am I don't know. I just felt really disconnected after recovering from that. So then I went on just a whole journey to clear my energy, to work with the past, to clear all the energies I've had with other people, and also working with plant medicines and integrating, doing it, not just like going off and doing it all the time, but I had a very specific path with that. And then getting into going to Egypt and experiencing energies there that were super high vibrational, which is like experiencing the energy lines because there is a intersection, like there is also in Northern California, there is an intersection of energy lines, creates like a nodal point.
mhm.
And this is another thing I talk about too, which is just like that the energy lines, the ley lines used to be on the map. They used to be on the maps and they used to show you where these energies were. And then there were different chakra points across the earth. And so this was real. This wasn't like woo-woo stuff, this was like reality. It's like, oh yeah, there's energies here, and you work with these energies and they represent. So having that experience and then getting exposed to biogeometry, which really goes deep into the understanding of the energies and vibrational physics, then I was like, oh, wow, we're living in this really amazing uh, place. And so I think we don't have a lot of understanding of the energies because we don't even talk about the ether, and the ether is like one of the most important elements that connects us all. It's like we are living in water and we don't even know it. So it's like it all is connected. And so, and then it gets into earth energy lines. There's different lines, and then that creates like blocks and sections, and how it can create high vibration or it can create disturbances. And then we build on that, build our houses, and then angles of houses create an issue on top of disturbances. So there's just a lot of energies that we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of break it down talking about our energy field. I'm sorry, I go right into this, but it's just,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was talking about, because once I understood it, then I can go, oh, that's why I feel certain energies, and I don't want to go here. I don't want to go. I've spent a lot of time in my life. I also had a bad spirit around me when I was a child. So all that got like sorted out, and
Right.
I understood how I was being influenced.
Yeah.
So we're all being influenced by energies. Possession isn't like the Exorcist movie.
Yeah.
Possession is something that can come in
Yeah.
when you're upset, when you're triggered.
Right.
You could be possessed by your ancestors, your
Yeah.
wounded ones, to come in and like, and then you're like, whoa, I didn't even know why I got so mad, like, or why I reacted that way. That's possession.
Yeah.
So just understanding how we're all being influenced by energies,
Yeah.
and really we can understand it, we can become conscious of it, and that creates consciousness.
Totally.
So um
Yeah.
so part of that is just like I want to really work with different retreats and different like I'm going to the Priestess College in Ashland uh with Lady Grael's college, and it's really sweet. She asked me to do the vibrational talk during their Samhain teachings when the veils are thin, and it's perfect, so I'm going to go do that.
Because you
And I offered it
together
at
an
the women's
amazing
retreat.
teachings.
Hmm?
You put together this amazing teaching around all your knowledge and biogeometry and what energy is. So it's
Yeah.
exciting.
Well,
So
once I learned all about it, it was like, oh, I
yeah,
can't unlearn it. I can't unsee it. And it was liberating. It
yeah.
liberated me in so many ways from understanding vibration, because
Mhm.
it's like we don't even acknowledge like there's an energy that is happening
Yeah,
all around us all the
totally.
time.
And it
And
can
we have a
work
lot of
against
power.
us or we can work with it when we truly understand it.
Yes. And yeah, so part of it is just like becoming conscious of the toroidal field, the energy field, the energies in our structures we live in,
Yeah,
the energy of electricity and how that is mixing, because nothing is like walled off and like, oh no, I'm not experiencing that energy or this energy.
yeah.
You are experiencing everything that's in your environment. So
Yeah.
and I feel like people who get really sensitive to electric, their energetic fields have been depleted by
Mm.
different situations. It could be trauma, it could be disturbances, in their lives, it could be surgeries, all these things deplete the energy field. And if
Totally.
you don't restore them with practices,
Mhm.
of, the fine tuning this tool, this energetic tool that is in the space, because
Yeah.
we live in the earth. We are in an energetic being. So, and everything's, starts from the female.
Right.
And, so we really have to understand this earth we're living in, acknowledge, start working with the earth,
Hmm.
and working with your environment, you know, and creating consciousness with the nature spirits. And this is what I learned from Egypt about nature spirits. The nature spirits are the Neteru, the netters. Netters are, it also is for nature, and it stands also for the net we live in. Because they understood in Egypt, they understood we lived in this energetic grid and we had to work with the energies.
Hmm.
So the different nature spirits represent these different aspects, the elements, the elements. I started working with the elements, why, through ceremony,
Hmm.
and then really like, whoa, I see why, we want to develop this relationship with the elements because they are here as allies.
Hmm.
And only after a couple of years of lodge, sweat lodge, I realized, oh my God, these are beings. These are like energies I can call on. They're amazing,
Because
and
they're
they
the
can help you.
frequency, again, that's frequency, and they're at the frequency of God source love. And that's what we want to achieve in the realm we're in, right? And so, like you were saying, like we're in Earth, we're in Mother Earth. She's at the frequency of love, the nature, the netters, like they're all at this higher frequency that we have to remember to align with again.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
And that,
So, and you know, it's yeah. So this, it's like probably a couple hour workshop,
yeah, cool. Yeah, that's
right?
awesome.
It's like it could be an hour and a half. It could be so anyway, it's really it's really like liberating. That's all I can say. Because
That's
I
a,
throw in also some history,
wow.
the understanding of history and how we've been misled in a lot of ways. And there's a lot more to history
Hmm.
and etymology. I put in a little bit about etymology and words and like what words really mean and what we're saying. Because they really do use words against us. So we really have to understand like what we're saying,
Yeah,
you know,
it'll keep us
what
trapped
it
in
actually,
the lower frequencies. These words will keep us
yeah.
vibrating in the frequency that they want us still to continue vibrating in, which is the dual, the
Yeah.
negative, the fear, the anger, all of these that and then we're more easily manipulated for their, what they want in,
Yeah, I mean, now we're really dealing with this kind of high level emotional manipulation because
oh,
it's not just news, it's social media. So it's like it's really, and then it's tribalism.
mm,
So it's really got ramped up in 2020,
yeah,
and it's like, yeah, people are really like, I know what's going on. And it's like, do you really know what's going on? Because there's actually like a lot going on all at once.
all at what, yeah, yeah,
So, you know, I've pulled in a lot of information, but I also remain open and curious to new information. And I
yeah,
also recognize how, the psyop counter psyop,
yeah,
it's real.
it's
When I
real.
see shares like a spiritual um podcast that has like 1 million views or something, I'm like, it's too clean. And there's reasons why people are being elevated on both sides.
That's
There's
how
reasons that,
Mhm.
it's not the algorithm, you know, it's just in their favor. They just have that many. They're being elevated for a reason. So you just have to really be like, ugh, how does this information feel? Or how do I like this? It's just like we really have to fine tune our intuition
Totally.
in these times
Inner,
as we're
yeah,
being
like that's
very,
key. How does something
yeah,
make you feel? That is key. And if at any,
yeah,
if it doesn't at all, if it on any level it feels weird, then
yeah.
stop watching it. Yeah. Or listening.
Yeah, and we really live in a mathematical world too. So the sacred geometry and the power of geometry is amazing. So I talk a lot about sacred geometry too, and like the
Yeah.
origins
Oh, cool.
of even the energy of a line, the Vesica Pisces, all these shapes that represent different frequencies and different ways we can use them
Um,
to protect ourselves.
and not only are you doing retreats and offering your beautiful presentations, you also work one-on-one um with people as well. And that is on your website and the package of working with you, right? And
Yeah,
you introduce all of this that we're talking about and what you do present at these retreats. You work one-on-one. And what is it?
yeah,
Mentorship. It's just like, what's that word? This menopause
yeah.
thing.
I do like
Mentorship.
the moon mentorship because the moon is a reflection. It literally reflects our Earth, and what you see on the moon is Earth being reflected back up. So it is this time of reflection. So using like peak times of reflection, new moon, full moon,
Mm-hmm.
and then working with your astrology chart and doing all this stuff is like organically coming together. I don't like have I wasn't trained by anyone to like do this.
Yeah.
So what is happening is it's like I'm hearing people's stories and what they are working with and what they are trying to, you know,
Yeah.
how they're trying to elevate themselves. And then I work with the astrology and see what energies they're working with
Mm.
naturally. And then I can hear when people tell me things, I can hear like I see the energy behind all the words.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm using some of the tools from biogeometry, like the human archetype ruler, which
Mm.
has this amazing ability to change disturbances in the body to a higher vibration. So all of that is there and giving